Welcome to another explainer. Now, if you're truly focused on understanding exactly how the world gets built around us, well, you are absolutely in the right place. We often look up at a towering skyscraper or walk through a perfectly designed home and just marvel at the physical stuff, the steel, the glass, the timber. But honestly, long before the first shovel ever hits the dirt, it's the construction documents that are the real unsung heroes of the skyline. By the end of this explainer, you're going to have a rock-solid understanding of these foundational tools.
So here is a quick roadmap of where we're headed today. First, we'll look at the recipe for building. Then, plans, boundaries, and water. After that, rules, details, and diagrams. Next is the Bill of Quantities. Then I'll give you an easy memory tip. And finally, we'll wrap it all up with a summary and review.
All right, let's jump into part 1, the recipe for building, ingredients for a structure.
Okay, to really wrap our heads around construction documents, let's just use a super simple, familiar metaphor. Think about baking a cake. You wouldn't just throw some flour and a couple of eggs into the oven and, hope for the best, right? You need a recipe. Well, construction documents are exactly like a recipe for a building. They're the essential papers and drawings that show literally everyone involved precisely how to build the thing. They tell you exactly what materials to use, those are your ingredients, and how to actually put them together, which are your instructions. And most importantly, just like a recipe saves you from a baking disaster, these documents help builders know exactly what to do, completely preventing those massive, costly mistakes on the site.
When you look at an active job site, you'll see these papers and drawings sitting right there alongside the physical tools of the trade, the tape measure, the clipboard, the pencil. It perfectly shows that these documents aren't just, theoretical paperwork tucked away in some office somewhere. They are active, hands-on tools. Whether it's a house plan or just a simple list of materials, these pages are basically the guiding light for the entire physical construction process.
Moving right along to Section 2, plans, boundaries, and water, laying the groundwork.
So when you need to figure out exactly where and how a building sits on the land, the very first thing you need is the surveyor's plan. Simply put, this is a drawing that shows land boundaries and exact measurements. And why does this matter? Well, imagine accidentally building half of your brand new structure on your neighbor's plot. Yikes, right? The surveyor's plan clearly maps out property lines and the exact size of the land, absolutely preventing the catastrophic error of building in the wrong place.
Take a look at those sharp red boundary lines mapped out here. You can clearly see the property plan, the scale bar, and the precise layout of the whole space. It acts as a definitive map, making sure that before a single drop of concrete is poured for the foundation, the builders know the exact mathematical constraints of the plot they're working on. Okay, so now you know exactly where you're building. Next, you need to know what you're building, and that's where architectural plans come into play. These are the drawings that show what the final building will actually look like, including the floor plans and the overall house design. These plans serve as the ultimate visual layout for the builders on site, so they can perfectly execute the architect's final vision.
Now here is one that people sometimes overlook, but any successful site plan has to account for the local hydrosphere. This encompasses all the water systems in the area. Understanding the hydrosphere is incredibly vital for construction because you absolutely have to plan for local water tables, proper site drainage, and, of course, flood mitigation. If you neglect how water naturally behaves on your specific site, you could severely compromise the structural integrity of the finished building, and nobody wants that.
Let's jump into Section 3, rules, details, and diagrams, the blueprint's DNA.
To guarantee safety, quality, and precise execution during the actual physical build, we rely heavily on the site specification document. Think of this as the ultimate rulebook for the entire project. It's this comprehensive document explaining all the rules and the highly specific details for building on a site. So for example, it dictates the exact grades of materials that have to be used. But it goes way beyond just materials. It outlines critical safety and compliance rules, making sure the work is top-notch while keeping everyone on the crew safe. In practice, these technical instructions usually take two distinct forms out on the site: working drawings versus labeled diagrams. Working drawings are those highly detailed technical pieces used constantly during the actual construction. They give clear, precise measurements like specific wall sizes or really intricate structural details, helping builders work with absolute mathematical accuracy. On the flip side, labeled diagrams are drawings with names showing each part clearly. So while the working drawings give you the exact measurements, the label diagrams boost overall understanding by making the systems visually clear and easy to identify at just a quick glance.
All right, Section 4, the Bill of Quantities, managing the budget.
So building a structure isn't just about design and placement, right? It's heavily, heavily about economics. And that brings us to the Bill of Quantities, often just called the BOQ. This is a comprehensive list of all the materials and the associated costs needed for a project. It tracks everything down to the specific item. For instance, the exact number of cinder blocks you need to build a wall, or the total cost of all the cement required for the foundation.
When you look at a matrix like this, you've got columns for the item description, the quantity, the unit, and the total cost. By meticulously tracking all these materials, whether we're talking about shovels, concrete mixers, or bulk bags of cement, this document directly helps project managers plan the budget accurately. Because knowing exactly what you need means you avoid over-purchasing, which directly prevents really expensive waste on the site.
Moving on to Section 5, the easy memory tip, your mental cheat code.
Okay, I know we've covered quite a few different documents here, and remembering the whole list can honestly feel a bit overwhelming. So, to permanently lock these 7 essential elements into your brain, you just need to remember one simple acronym: SASWBHD. Let's just walk through it together. S is for the site specification document. That's our rulebook. A is for architectural plans, the design. The second S is for the surveyor's plan, mapping those boundaries. W stands for working drawings, the exact measurements. B is the BOQ, the Bill of Quantities that manages our budget. H stands for the hydrosphere, reminding us to plan for water. And finally, D is for labeled diagrams, giving us those clear visual names. SASWBHD. Master that acronym, and you've got your entire recipe for building memorized for good.
And finally, Section 6, Final Summary and Review, Testing Your Knowledge.
Let's just take a quick second to consolidate everything we've covered through a little act of recall. First up, what is an architectural plan again? Right. Those are the drawings that show what the final building will actually look like. Second, what does a BOQ show? It's that list of materials and costs, absolutely essential for planning the budget and avoiding waste. And third, why are surveyors' plans so important? They map the exact land boundaries and size, making sure you don't accidentally build in the wrong place. If you can answer those, you are totally on the right track.
Ultimately, succeeding in construction really just boils down to knowing these documents, what each one does, and precisely why they matter. It all leads to one very simple equation. Good documents equal better buildings. They are the absolute essential recipe that prevents costly mistakes, keeps workers safe, manages the money, and ensures that an architect's vision actually becomes a physical reality.
So, I want to leave you with a quick question to chew on. Since good documents equal better buildings, which of these 7 essential tools are you going to master first to ensure your next project stands the test of time? Whether it's mapping the boundaries with a surveyor's plan or crunching the numbers on a BOQ, your understanding of these foundations is now built on really solid ground. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.